So I'll try and get the review for the latest episode of X-Men 97 out tomorrow. I think we can expect them on Thursdays for this season. And in the meantime, new trailer drop. This one for Dead Boy Detectives, which I might or might not ultimately end up checking out. But I would say that I'm open to it. And this is the trailer's chance to hook me. I do know what Dead Boy Detectives is, at least as far as the original material goes. It is okay, so it is technically a spinoff of Sandman, but not in any real meaningful way. Kind of like how Constantine is a spinoff of Swamp Thing, but you don't really need to know that to take in Constantine at all. Sandman really, and what happens with these characters in Sandman only accounts for why they exist at all. As far as the comics, they've pretty much always just done their own thing. And I largely expect that the TV show will be the same. I know it's going to be pegged and marketed, or at least talked about by fans as like, oh, it's connected to Sandman. I'm like, I mean, potentially they're both licensed by Netflix, but also like those licenses are handled differently. So even though Netflix is putting both of them out, if a different company is doing the actual production, then they might not be legally able to tie in together, not without some big, massive headaches. And even if that's not the case, there isn't that much to tie together. So unless I see something that tells me otherwise in this trailer, I'm assuming minimal, if any, connection to Sandman. I'd honestly be slightly surprised if they even cover the aspect of this in the next season of Sandman that would account for where they came from. Like, they might, they could. I'm pretty sure they're doing Seasons of Mist, which is where it happens. But again, in the scope of the Seasons of Mist story, it is definitely something you cut if you're cutting content for time to fit everything into a season. But that's me starting to get into a tangent on Sandman itself. So why don't we check out Dead Boy Detectives?
Allow me to welcome you to the Dead Boy Detective Agency.
They're a little older than I would think.
Ghosts resolve their mysteries. Ghosts who cannot let go.
Which they probably did that so they can get multiple seasons.
It's Aces, right?
That's a stupid name.
Really?
I'd like to hire you.
For the song?
We help ghosts whose cases would go unsolved.
The cases no one else can.
It's got a strong visual aspect to it. That's good.
No. Come on, having a psychic is paying off. She is absolutely not joining the agency.
You know I can totally hear you guys.
We're pretty bang
That was a
on
really obvious
but
joke.
we're not hiding from death.
Oh,
Spent
okay.
A bunch of decades in hell.
But the technicality.
Sorry, I've got to take you to hell.
Okay.
These two boys
From the author of.
are
All right, that's about as much connection as they're going to be able to get away with.
You are my best mate. I wouldn't want to be dead with anyone else.
Good
This
sentiment.
sweet moment got really heavy.
All right. You didn't need to undercut it.
Our deaths didn't matter. And no one ever solved them. I'm not going back to hell.
I just want to help. It does matter.
Strong
We
visuals,
have to help.
horror
Even if it's
elements.
Scary, and the odds are bad. And we
Nice
might
use of
die
color.
horrifically.
Nico, that was amazing.
Thank you. Oh, did you guys know zombies are real?
I'm worried I'm not going to like her if I try and watch this. So there's promise here for sure. And it looks like they are going to tie it into Sandman about the easiest way that you can, which is to have the same actress appear as Death. And Yeah, that's a pretty simple thing to do. And honestly, as long as you don't strictly speaking call her Death of the Endless, you can probably just have the same actress play Death in both places, and it technically does not run afoul of any different rights being held by different companies in any way. I expect that'll probably be the extent of it. Like the fact that the connection they said is from the author of. So, it's not even from the same studio. At least that's not how they're marketing it. But like there's a strong visual flair. There's a good sense of attitude. Reminded me a little bit of Umbrella Academy in that way. So I'd say promising. I'm not liking the undercutting of some admittedly somewhat cheesy moments with, basically, oh, so that just happened jokes. I can hear you, right? Like that is the literal most obvious joke you could have made in that moment. Oh, let's undercut this bit. Like a lot of people label this Marvel humor. And while I'm not going to disagree, it by and large does not rub me the wrong way in Marvel very often. And honestly, the one where I remember it really standing out the most is one that predates people starting to complain about that. And that was Thor: The Dark World. But anyways, like I don't have a problem with sarcastic characters even, but it's starting to grate. It's getting old. So I'm not and like most of it was tied to that one character. So I don't know if it'll be a case of this is a recurrent thing across the show that would bug me, or if it would just mean I don't like her. Or like it could turn out that those are her most annoying moments just in the trailer, and in the show she's fine. So that's possible as well. Will I check it out? I don't know. I think it's going to depend on what my workload looks like. So maybe. That's kind of where I'm at with most things at this point. Maybe. But there's promise for sure. And like I never read the comic. I'm familiar with it. And there was promise to that as well. I like that they kind of have found the through line being the fact that one of them was briefly in hell and he's terrified of going back. That gives you something to be a through line through what I would think the natural format of a detective show is, which is one case per episode. Case. So to give the characters a through line so it still feels like more of a season as opposed to a bunch of completely isolated episodes, which I also wouldn't have a problem with, but it's Netflix. They're built on binge model, so episodic isn't really their strength. At least not as much, not with the way that they do things. So yeah, that's a good, strong through line to have going through, I would assume, however many mysteries as there are episodes going on. So yeah, that I'd say there is promise. I see glimpses of what would bug me. And a lot of it just has to do with the undercutting of the moment. Because like the Dead Boy Detectives is a ridiculous idea. It is two schoolboys who are dead solving mysteries. That's ridiculous. And you don't make it less ridiculous by having a character standing around pointing out that it's kind of ridiculous. Lampshade hanging is a very fine art, and I'm concerned they might not know what they're doing with that aspect of it. I did note the actors are definitely older than the characters should be, probably because they would hope to get more than one season, and if you cast age appropriate, then that would mean that every year that goes by, it's going to be really noticeable that they aged, but they're dead, they're not supposed to get older, so I expect that was part of the reason for the casting. The other one might also just be because of the work restrictions on casting younger actors. I would think probably the combination of those two things, because like you can't shoot past a certain point of night, you can only shoot so many hours in a day versus what you can shoot with adults. So yeah, I would say between those two factors is probably why they aged them up a little bit in the casting. A little disappointing because I think I would find the whole thing more engaging if they were more in the like 13, 14 range that they should be. But I do understand the logistical reality of trying to film a show like this, especially if it is your hope to get more than one season. So like, I get it, but I kind of would almost have preferred that they committed to only doing one season and cast the correct ages. I think that would actually give it like a little extra zing to it. But we're not getting that. It still might be good. Yeah, that was a solid enough trailer. And the thing that I'm spotting that makes me concerned is not usually the kind of thing that would wreck it for me. Because that's what my brain zeroes in on. What am I seeing that might not work? Well, the main thing that I'm seeing that might not work is some of the humor, but unless it is excessively pervasive across the whole thing, like they punctuate every single scene with a joke, unless they take it to that level, that's probably not likely to spoil the whole thing for me. I might try and find the time for this. No promises. But what did you think of this trailer? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Patreon pays the bills, enables me to do this as my living. Even if you can't help me out that way, like, share, subscribe. They all help me as well. Don't worry too much about it, though. We take a relaxed attitude around here. So just come on back next time you need a break. Time for me to thank my highest supporting patrons: Robin Moore, Zubin Lutfula, Goddess Elida, Oliver B, Turok, The Thing That Goes Doink in the Anime, Ruth, Solitary Pictures, Ulrich Bogdan, Loki Eris. That was a new one, that's why I paused. Melinda Walters, Jen, Auntie Kate 808, Becky Sparks, Fernabi Likes the Poodle, Robin Powell, Twisted Wishes, Tracy Scrabbit, Angry Casperl, Dave Hall, Quite Bearish, Rosalind Bennett, Pau Barabajoggle, and Mara G. If you want to support me as well and help keep these little buggers fed, check out my Patreon. Thanks so much.